Hey, Billings, we're good to go over here. We'll turn it over to you for some opening comments.
All right, good to go. It's like NASA. Well, welcome. My name is Chris Kukulski, the city administrator in Billings. I want to welcome everybody for participating. It's an honor as a city to get to sponsor, to be one of several sponsors. You can see on our tents here, we've got several, but today I'll highlight a little bit of ourselves. The city is a sponsor along with the others, as this is a priority, right? It's a priority for our citizens in Billings to have access to our legislators, be heard by our legislators, as well as get to hear from our legislators throughout the session. So, working in 3 different communities in Montana over the past 21 years, this is the first community I've worked in that's had this program. And it's just a brilliant idea for whoever in the past came up with it, and we're grateful to be a part. I also, really see it as it encourages our citizens to take advantage of this opportunity as we're working together with the legislature, particularly this session, on our #1 priority, which is to make Billings a safer community. So we thank you, we thank those who are in attendance, those who are on Zoom, for participating with MSUB, the Chamber of Commerce, First Interstate, and all those who help put this together for us so we can have what are probably about a half a dozen opportunities to speak face to face right here from Billings. So with that, Daniel, I can turn it back over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chris. Just a quick mention to a couple of our other sponsors. The City of Billings, of course, of which is one, Big Sky Economic Development, and then the other is Downtown Billings Alliance. So as we normally do, we'll take the first half of this hour. We'll go around with our local legislators to get a quick update on bills that they're working on, issues that are coming up that they would like to kind of alert our folks back home that those are coming up. And then the second half, we'll open that up for some discussion and some question and answer. So if you want to give that question and answer live, you're welcome to do that, or you can post those questions in the chat and I can read those. So I guess we'll start closest to me with Senator McGilvray, if you're ready.
So my people can hear. Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Thanks for lunch today, by the way. Members of the Billings community, glad to see you online today. I just have maybe one bill that I'll talk about that relates to Billings. This is something that Brett Rutherford asked me to carry, and it got out of the Senate yesterday. And it is an election bill, and it's a pretty simple little bill, but currently in polling places, they have to stay open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. if there's at least 400 voters that are registered at that polling place. This bill simply takes away the mail ballots. So after subtracting out mail ballots, if there's less than 400, then the polling place may stay open at least from 12 to 8, but it can stay open longer if it wants. But I think that's just an efficiency. I think Mr. Rutherford is just trying to get some efficiencies and save some taxpayer money, and it's hard to find polling place judges, and so it just helps out the city on the election day. And I have some more bills. There was actually a letter to the editor in the Gazette yesterday on one of my bills, which I got a constituent call from. It's on, I think it's Senate Bill 77. Sometimes I forget the right numbers, but on Christian or healthcare sharing ministries. And the letter to the editor was, I think it was an op-ed, but it was not all so. But that bill simply just allows the sharing ministries, which were codified under the Affordable Care Act, to be codified in Montana. That's really all that bill does.
And thank you, Senator. What was the bill number for that elections bill?
196.
196. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready, Senator Friedel? All right. It's all yours.
Good afternoon from my good city of Billings. Senate District 26, which is the south side of the south portion of Billings. Senator Furdell here. Well, some of the things I would do, look forward to, especially when it comes to county and even city, is some of the bills that we've seen in local government. One being, for instance, being passed through actually yesterday by Representative Putnam. I believe it was, I was just looking it up just to make sure I had the right one so I can tell you, was the House Bill 220 that we just heard in local government, which what it does is it takes what it does is it deals with almost like an SID or a special district. And what it does is it allows the PILT money. I don't know if you guys are familiar with PILT, which is the payment in lieu of taxes that we typically get from the federal government when it talks about some of the things like our lands and things like that. That money goes to the jurisdictions and sometimes goes to the county, but the sequential year that they take money out of it, the feds take money back out of the sequential year. What he's proposing on this particular bill is that money that the feds take, there's a caveat in federal law that if that money is being used in the special district, it won't be recaptured by the federal government. It'll actually stay in the special district. And so it allows cities and counties to use these special districts, and it's for things like roads and those types of upgrades and things like that. So it's public tax dollars being used for public things, and so those are one of the things I'd like you guys to keep an eye on because I thought that was a really good bill. We should be hearing it tomorrow. We probably will even be voting on it tomorrow, but it is a House bill, so it may sit there a while because of transmittal. That was one of the biggest things I saw. I know there was a couple other things that we saw in local government that may pertain to you guys. I know we've had a lot of relaxation of certain things as far as when it comes to subdividing and things like that. You guys might want to look into. I know there was a bill that was I don't want to say controversial, but there was a lot of emotion, a lot of back and forth for both opponents and opponents, where the subdividing of certain things would have to go back to review. And so the Senator Glenn was pulling that one, and I off the top of my head, I can't remember what the bill number was, but what it allowed to do was, when you already have a subdivision already set up for what it is, that if you subdivided it, because sometimes people want to just make smaller versions, like they want to, sell like a portion of it or do something with a little portion that may be a little bit of a change, like say McDonald's, and then they want to put a hotel next to it. They can subdivide the subdivision, but it won't have to go to a severe review, which means you don't have to go back through all the process and things like that. So it makes the streamlining of these certain scenarios. So there's a lot of things out there that in local government, I think would actually benefit having the expediency for contractors and people in those areas to help them get past all these red tape deals that have to seem to hiccups in our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Next, we have Representative Moore.
Yes, good afternoon. Representative Terry Moore from House District 54 in West Billings. I would like to give maybe just a little bit of color about House Bill 578, which was heard early yesterday morning in Judiciary. I'm honored to be the sponsor of that bill, but the reality is that any Billings legislator would have been more than honored to carry this bill. And so as much as I'd like to take credit for it, I'm not the one to take credit for it, other than there's one sponsor on every bill, and I was honored to be able to be in that posture and be able to carry this. We've heard for a long time about public safety and the challenges that we face in the city of Billings and Yellowstone County at large. And one of those arenas is in the area of overcrowded jails. And because of that, there's some earlier release of folks than there ought to be. And so the bill 578 is fairly simple. Let me tell you how it came about. It started back in December with conversations with a number of folks throughout Billings, including Chris Kukolski, so he may want to add some color to it as well, but the sheriff and jails and other things around the challenges that we were facing in Billings. And so, as a legislative group, we come back and challenged the city and said, give us some solutions now that we understand the problem. And this solution there's never a silver bullet, but the solution is in this bill is that it requires the Department of Corrections to respond to judges whenever a defendant is being held for longer than 5 days in our county jails. We have, unfortunately, the Department of Corrections is left sometimes these defendants there for months on end. And our jails are overcrowded with folks that should be taken care of by the Department of Corrections. And they may be going to some other treatment program or other things. It isn't always going to just prison, but nonetheless, it's created a bottleneck. And so this has not got a great big hammer with it. It just is merely requiring the Department of Corrections to get back to the judge if they haven't taken that defendant out of our jails by within a 5 days time period. So we are hopeful that that form of communication, that form of, it'll continue to allow the Department of Corrections and our local county jail to work together and communicate well. And better yet, free up some space in our jail so that we can make sure that public safety remains addressed in a legislative manner. I would just say maybe just, and Chris, you may want to add more color about that and how this has come about and how we're hopeful that this will help address some of the issue, particularly about our overcrowded jails.
Thank you, Representative. And if you wouldn't mind, I know there's another bill, not necessarily dealing with spacing, but costs of our justice system taking care of folks under another jurisdiction's purview. Would you mind talking about Representative Seekins-Crow's House Bill 584?
I'd be brief about it, but yes, she brought forth the bill yesterday that did pass through Judicial Committee all the same. So we'll be hearing these on the floor of the House in the next few days. And essentially it allows for local jails, in this case, Yellowstone County Jail, to charge the Department of Corrections based on the real costs rather than the legislated amount, which I think was about $70 a day or low 70s. And so to the extent that the costs of holding a defendant on behalf of the Department of Corrections is something more than that, then the local county would be able to pass that cost to the Department of Corrections. And so I think that's the essence of the bill.
Yeah, thank you. Representative Brewster.
If anybody can do anything about that.
Oh, sorry, we just caught the last bit of that, Mayor. Were you having audio issues?
No, are you all right now?
Yeah.
Now we can
we're
hear.
good.
All right. I always have this problem with hitting the buttons on the microphone, so I get chewed out every day. So my bill on the local water districts passed on second reading yesterday and will be on third reading today. And it passed with a large majority. So that was encouraging. We had 3 amendments to it in committee, and I think the result was a better bill. And the committee worked really well on it, and it came out of committee unanimous. So it'll likely be finished today and over to the Senate. I think it still needs one more amendment. I hate to do that to the Senate, but there's some language conflicts in it, so we'll probably take care of that. In tax, we've seen a lot of bills. I think there's one up tomorrow that should be of interest to the cities and counties. It just requires a lot of costs associated with mailing the tax notices. And if you do a mill levy, it has some requirements on that are actually pretty expensive to do. And so I have an amendment in for it, and I think we can take some of that sting out of it. I'm not sure it'll even pass, but at least if we amend it and it passes, it's more workable. If it doesn't pass, then it'll be harder to pull out and look at later with the amendments. So I talked to Andy Zoller about it this morning, and so I think we have a cure for that one. But otherwise, I think things are flying along pretty fast right now. And it's kind of exciting. So we have to limit the testimony in a lot of committees just so we can get it done before midnight. But yeah, I think those are the two highlights.
Thanks, Representative. And for some of the folks on our call here that keep track, would you mind giving those bill numbers?
I think the one on tomorrow is 492, I hope. I might be wrong. If it is, I'll send you an email.
Thank you. All right, Representative Carpenter.
Thank you. So my name is Emma Carpenter. I represent House District 49 in downtown Billings and the eastern part of the South Side. So I have been sitting on Section D of the budget. It's our committee that deals with the Department of Corrections, the Office of Public Defender, the judicial branch, and also, oddly enough, the PSC's budget. And we just wrapped up our work in the last week. So I think one of the things that's been really exciting to me about that work is that we've been addressing some of those upstream issues that cause our local jail to be full, and hopefully are going to be putting some things into place this session that will help with some of those issues. So we'll see. We just finished our first draft of the budget, and that'll be heading to the full appropriations committee for us to fight over there. And so, you know, we'll see what we can get done. So.
Thank you, Representative. And next we have Representative Custer.
Hi, thank you, and good afternoon. Geraldine Custer, House District 39, the lower part of the Yellowstone County to Huntley. I don't have any exciting bills. My bill was kind of like a cleanup bill for title insurance companies that has been since we talked last. But Representative Brewster and I are on two committees together, local government and energy. And last week in energy, we killed two bills, one that affected my district directly and one that affects probably Representative Vinton's district, if I'm not mistaken, on the Rosebud power plant and the what they call Yelp plant, or it's the little plant that is hooked to Exxon that burns the waste coke. They were trying to just basically put them out of business and also make them file a bond for decommissioning. And I think the one contract is like 2.5 years and one's 7 years. So that would have been a big hit to both of our areas. And as a tax base and jobs, each one of those plants has 40 jobs that are good paying. And the fact that it would affect Billings air quality right away if that plant closes. So we put both of those to bed. We're seeing a lot of bills right now about pornography and censorship on the internet, the way the bills are drafted. I mean, we all know we want them, but the way the bills are currently drafted, most of them have legal issues with constitutionality and basically impossible to administer the way they're currently written. So I don't know how those are going to come out. I mean, they're everybody's desire, but the way these ones are currently written, I don't know if they're going to fly. There seems to be a lot of bills tweaking public health, which is kind of a hot button for me because I'm a public health believer. And so there just seems to be a lot of bills because of the lockdown. I think that people are angry about any regulation, and coming from the local government or the municipal government standpoint makes it kind of hard when that's what the jobs of local government and municipalities are, public health and public safety. So there's a lot of tax on those kind of things. And that's not going to be good for the overall picture health-wise or anything. So I just don't know. I feel like we spend our whole time as coming from local government on defense of the local regulations. I guess that's kind of how I see it. I don't know what else to add on that. So thank you.
Thanks, Representative. And we'll stay on that topic here real quick. I've got a quick question on that, but for those folks that are on the call and back home, we'll turn it over to our question and answer session here. So be thinking about those questions. The last time we had our video conference, I believe you had let us know that local government was going to take 3 or 4 of those public health officer bills and pick and choose the best parts, leave out the worst. What's come of that process? What's come out of that?
Oh, thank you for the question. The two, there were couples, several bills where there are 2 or 3 on local the governing powers, the emergency governing powers, and then there were about that same number on the local health board emergency powers, and they put them all in one committee and had with all the bills together and had them come out with 2 bills, one on the government power, the governor's powers, emergency powers, and one on the local government powers. And they haven't been across the floor yet, but they should be coming out here directly. But we did talk about them this week in our whip groups, so they're coming out. There's 1 bill for the governor, 1 bill for the public health and the local county commissioners to take care of that.
Excellent, thank you. And I have to plead ignorance. Do you have a bill number on those that we can pass back to folks at home?
I'd have to look them up. I'm thinking 121 is one of them, but I can't remember the governor power one. I'd have to look them up.
Okay, well, I'll find those and we'll pass that on to everybody that's on the call today. I've got one more question. I'm going to selfishly hog the mic here with another question. We've seen this week the frequency and the pace of bills coming through the committees significantly speed up. House Judiciary had 20 bills at least scheduled on Monday, and a number of the other committees have had a pretty fast-paced schedule. As far as the sausage making of legislating goes, is this providing for good sausages? And I would offer that question to anybody that wants to take it.
No. Personally, this is my 4th term, and it seems like this transmittal is more intense in the House than it has been in the past. And I think all the bills kind of, I don't know why, maybe because I've not been here during a change of administration, but it seems like maybe that has something to do with it. And I know they got a new drafting system, but it seemed like all the bills came at the end. I mean, they were in there, but it seems like all the bills got dropped this past week. I think there were a couple hundred that got dropped the last week. So that makes all the committees have to hear these quickly. So there's not as much time to try to get amendments and make them better. And it's just that everything's kind of going through quickly, and probably some people's get killed that are probably could be good bills if you could have time to work them, and other things get shoved through. They're not so good because depending on who's in power, it's not what I consider a good way to do it. But I don't know why they all came so late. I'm just thinking it has to be something with the change of administration and them getting here and having to be ready to go January, whatever the first day in January was. And then they have to hurry up and get their legislation priorities in too, besides the regular legislators that have already got theirs in. So I don't know if that's it or what. Maybe Senator McGilvery, who's been here before a lot, could answer that.
Maybe the Senate's better off than we are.
Like us over here.
Whoever wants to say that the Senate just hasn't experienced what the House is experiencing. I mean, we're 4 or 5 bills in a committee. It's not terrible. It's probably average. But I know the House is really unbelievably jammed up. And I think that might be some COVID issues with just staffing issues. I don't know, but to Representative Custer's question, I know that we changed, I was here in 2005 when we changed administrations, and I don't recall anything like what we're seeing in the House right now.
Yeah, I am on this time. I think that there has been some delays in fiscal work on the bills, and sometimes the amendments have been a little slow and bills have had to be delayed for executive action in a lot of the committees. So I think a lot of them got pushed back. Plus there's a lot of bills. I mean, we're up in the 500s now. So, and most of them probably were put in the last 3 weeks, I would think. So you put that in the difficulties that Senator identified with getting drafts done, and people, you know, we're not face to face with most of the help. Everything's on the phone or via email. You can't, it could, because of COVID, you don't go down and sit down with them and work through it. And so it's made everything more awkward. And at least for me, it's awkward and difficult to really get it done quickly. So you don't necessarily have an exchange on things. You have to email and then get an email and email. And yeah, so it's an interesting session. You know, that's what people tell me. I think it's been interesting anyway.
Senator Friedel, do you want to weigh in?
I know I was talking with leadership to find out what was going on. I mean, luckily for me, I kind of paced my bills. So most of mine's already in the house, except for a couple that have fiscal notes on them anyway. So I'll see them past then. But from my understanding, it seemed like there was a combination of new software integration, what was going on with the pandemic, where a lot of staff isn't even here. A lot of them are remoting in. So there's a lot of that going on. So I think the combination of that really, because from what it sounds like a lot of bills I've been talking to, a lot of legislators are like, well, I put my bill back in January and I'm now getting them. So I think there might just be, I mean, and I'm not saying that our legislative staff is, incompetent or anything. I just think it's just all this newness coming at them at one time has just made it kind of have that backlog going on. And then they've been really responsive. So every time I've ever had an amendment or anything like that I needed to do, they were on top of it. So I think it's just a matter of it might just be the amount of bills that are coming at them. But yeah, I have to say a lot of them are just getting blown out at the end. But bear in mind, there are two chambers. So if it doesn't get fixed in the Senate or if it doesn't get fixed in the House, we can catch it in the House or we can catch it in the Senate. So there are at least 4 chances we have to amend a bill. You got committee, floor, committee. So you got those 4 opportunities to fix a bill if there's some issues, or you have 4 opportunities to kill a bill. I mean, actually you have 6 at that point, you have 3rd readings. So, I mean, even though it's kind of feeling fast paced, there are still times where we can actually catch it. And I think after we get past transmittal, it'll slow down a little bit, that we can kind of chew on some of these bills a little more. So.
Thank you, Senator. I guess I would offer the last word to Representative Moore if you have anything. Okay. All right. Anybody back home with a question? Oh, looks like we've got somebody.
I do. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you're good.
My name is Karen Moses. At one time, I was in Tom McGilvery's district, but lines have changed. But the conversation, I'd like to thank both Representative or Senator Custer and Mr. Friedel when you talk about there being an opportunity for 4 chances to correct. But when she talks about how difficult it is for you to follow, it's extremely difficult for any of us at home to try to follow what is taking place. This year I thought I'd lay low and just study and do the best I could as I watched, because I've been here before. And I'm hoping sometime before I die, we consider preschool. But the challenge of following you, and I wish I could say I had a bill, but Health and Human Services and early childcare, for those of us that are trying to follow those, it's extremely frightening. Wow. And I have a prepared statement, so I'll stick to it. There was a time here in Billings where cutting taxes was more important than raising mill levies. It wasn't until the hospitals told the chamber that they had trouble recruiting doctors because they hesitated to bring their families to a place that didn't appear to support their schools and children, that we finally turned the tide and chose to tax ourselves. We chose to invest in our children and their education. And when we did, I believe that investment in our elementaries are one of the main reasons, when you look across the country, that we are able to be open 5 days teaching our children, and our kids are in school for the most part, when in many places of the country they are not. I was encouraged to see your efforts to raise beginning teacher salaries. While I hope it was because it was the right thing to do, deep down inside, I know being 50th among 50 states didn't look too good on a bumper sticker if enticing businesses to come to our community is what you were hoping, to our state. When I look at your logic for taxing, if we lower the tax rates, then we are more welcoming to businesses who might want to come to this state. I'm hoping that you realize there are other things that most serious businesses, when looking to relocate, and they do their research, might look at. Tax climate is one of them, but quality schools and how we care for our families is another. I don't know how many are looking to see if their employees can carry guns everywhere, including schools? Or how many are asking if you are a state that has eliminated masks and public health standards? Because as she explained, the knee-jerk reaction to this last year we're going through is please don't send us there. So at one time, Tom McGilvery, and I don't know if it was you, I had a legislator who asked me, or who told me, Mrs. Moses, no one says they want you to raise their taxes. But I'm here again this year to say, this time, just please don't give me a tax cut for CSCT. Even the governor asked 21 million to be put in for health and human services. I'm trying to track you this last week. It appears zip, you've given nothing there. We've struggled for years to get preschool and early childhood education. We succeeded in getting a Paltry Stars program that just tries to teach a poor childcare provider how to take care of 4 infants at one time. So I guess I'm asking
your comments, just for the sake of making sure everybody has a chance to weigh in.
You bet. I'm sorry. You bet. I'm worried about cuts to all those programs, and it doesn't appear that any of it's been put back. So thanks for letting me vent. I don't know what bill it is. It's hard to track.
Thank you, Karen. Any feedback here from legislators?
I think, Karen, thank you for those comments. I think one thing just to flag for you is the subcommittee's just finished up our work earlier this week, and we're not going to be hearing House Bill 2 in the full Appropriations Committee until after transmittal. So, you know, what you're seeing right now is a first draft of the budget, and as with many first drafts, there's a lot of revisions yet to go. And so I would say probably in March, you can expect to see some more movement on those issues because they're really important. And I agree with you. We need to make sure that those services are available because they're important for bringing people to Montana.
Thank you. All right. Do we have another question?
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everybody there. Just a couple thanks and maybe a quick update from Billings here. Bill Cole, the mayor in Billings. Thank you, Representative Moore, for your work on 578. We really appreciate the support that's getting. The lack of jail space is a big deal for keeping our city safe. Everybody knows that. COVID has made it worse, but it was a problem we had beforehand, and even after COVID, it's going to be one that continues with us. I'll just kind of comment, I think the House in Washington is voting today on the giant $1.9 trillion package, or maybe that's tomorrow, and that includes $350 billion with a B dollars for states, counties, and cities. If that passes, that's going to be a big chunk of change for Yellowstone County and probably for Billings as well. I think we, as a community, need to keep our eyes on possibly using a portion of that money for a jail expansion. I don't know whether the commissioners would agree with that, but it's good one-time money that there would be more staffing cost on that, but something to keep our eyes open. But thank you again, Representative Moore and everybody else who worked on that. Representative Brewster and Custer, thank you for your work on 255. Larry, you mentioned that there's some tweaking on there. That phrase, and no nominees exist for the director position to be elected is still in the version I saw. So maybe we can work on that in the Senate. But again, thank you for your work. That's going to be a great step forward. And this a couple quick updates here in Billings. It's Billings Strong Weekend. So I've got my senior shirt on and my West vest. We're just trying to support the families that have lost these 4 young teenagers to car accidents just in the last few days, really. And it's a nice opportunity for us to kind of come together. And Rocky Vista University, I hope you saw that in the paper, the announcement of a medical school. I think that has real legs. I and others went down in September to tour their facility. They're the real deal. They've got financing, they've got land. That's going to be a huge step forward, not just for Billings, but for all of Montana to have a real medical school in the state. And oh, by the way, we still have a disease called COVID-19 here. That hasn't gone away either, but our numbers are coming down, although people are still dying. My sister-in-law died on Monday, actually. So as you consider those bills, keep in mind those variants that are still out there. I'd hate to see us all go back to square one and have to do this again and again. So thank you very much. And again, thanks for your hard work.
Thank you, Mayor. Very, very sad to hear about your family. Any comments there, or can we turn it over to Senator McNally to talk real quick? She's joined us. If you wouldn't mind giving us a quick update on bills that you're working on, things coming up quickly.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Billings. This week is the bill on directed trusts of all things. Still doing CPACE, that's over in the House now, so I'd like to see that come out, I hope. And the fun bill of the week for me is daylight savings. I don't know if that's dead yet or not. I hope not, because I think it would be great, and I actually got quite a bit of support out of Billings for it. But
It actually passed out of committee yesterday.
excellent, thanks. So yeah, still alive, and you know, perfect. It's a great bill, of course. So that's this week. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you mind just give a quick overview to folks listening in what that CPACE bill does?
The CPACE, it stands for Commercial Property Assessed Capital Expenditures, and it basically is it's a funding mechanism to allow small business owners, private property owners, and ag people to get access to financing for energy efficiency upgrades. And those can range from, new lights or new heating to, if you want to do something with renewables or you want to switch to gas or whatever. I mean, you do anything, there's a whole list of eligible projects that if you do the energy assessment on your property and it pencils out, you get money and you pay it back through an assessment on your property tax. So it allows people to make investments that they probably otherwise wouldn't be able to, and to get the money up front. So it's a good bill, and I did, thank those, including the chamber, who supported it.
Thank you, Senator. Any other questions, either at MSU Billings or online? Do we have any folks that have any questions queued up? And I might have falsely claimed that you can post those in the chat, but I don't see if we chat anywhere. So maybe you'd have to raise your hand.
Daniel, I don't know if you can see me. It's Chris Kukulski again. So I just want to make two comments, brief. I won't repeat the mayor. Thank you again, Representative Moore and others. One of the reasons I love local government, and it's so great to hear state legislators say, I don't need the credit, we're all working together. So thank all of you for helping us on House Bill 578. I'd also speak in support, I think someone mentioned maybe it was House Bill 220, whichever bill is trying to have the state reimburse local counties for what the actual cost is for jails. We deliberately in 578 didn't have a fiscal impact to it. We removed the desired language of some kind of financial stick or penalty so that we would get broad support. But I think it only makes sense that with House Bill 220, that the counties do not subsidize the state. And I can't imagine any county not being supportive of that. Why would anybody at the local level want anything other than the state to pay at least the cost of housing inmates? And I think in the long run, that might help us as well to have the state move their prisoners along. So thank you.
I know I already spoke. And it's not fair to come twice, but I'll never come again. I didn't realize Mary McNally, at least this term, was in the room. And I can tell from the papers that you have at least tried, and maybe you can answer some questions about where the mental health treatment between the school districts. I know that you have spoken on both of those issues. I don't know if they've got a ghost chance or there's anything we can do about it, but thank you for your efforts and thank you for listening.
I believe that was Karen. Is that Karen?
Yeah, sorry, Mary.
Okay, just, I do think it stands a chance. What happened in the budget subcommittee was more about, trying to remember this. I think CMS will no longer recognize the way we were paying for it. They weren't recognizing the school in kind. And so DPHHS had a couple of years where they fought about it, but they lost. So I don't think anybody wants to see that service go away, but they have to figure out a different way to do it. So there is some idea of carryover money for the short term and then try to figure out a different arrangements, probably still with the school systems for funding jointly in ways that CMS will approve. So I don't think it's gone away permanently, but they couldn't put the money back in the way it was because that had been disapproved. If that makes any sense. It's also early in the process, so there's a lot of pieces still in play, but I think a lot of people recognize how important that program is.
Thank you.
Thanks, Senator, and thanks, Karen. And you are welcome to come back. We just want to make sure that everybody is concise in their remarks and questions so everybody has a chance to weigh in. Anybody else with a question? If not, I guess I've got one. I'm a little bit fearful of waking a sleeping giant. As the session got started, we were counting the number of TIF bills as draft requests, and there was 19 when I last counted, but I don't think we've seen any yet. Are they just kind of sleeping? One coming up.
In household government, so maybe it's a tax. I think there's one in tax as well.
Okay.
Well, to make you feel better, I'm on local government on the Senate side, and we haven't seen anything for TIF, so.
So there's a few.
You can blame the House guys, just so you're aware.
Well, thanks. I know we've got a couple folks here interested in TIF and economic development, so wanted to bring that up. All right, last call. Any last minute questions? All right. Well, thank you to our legislators for joining us today. We'll be back again in a couple weeks and hope the rest of the day goes well with House votes or floor votes.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks everybody for joining us back at MSU.